start and then they, yeah. Oh, it's slow here. Preparing to meet. Okay, good. Bezrat Hashem Naseven Atzliach. We're on page, in the English book, it's page 334. I'm reading from the Hebrew though. Who was Yael speaking about? Oh, I was speaking about Rabbi Yaakov Reshevsky. Did you hear of him? He's phenomenal. He's my latest guru. He's my latest teacher. I can't get enough of him. I can't get enough of him. I seriously can't get enough of him. Okay. Oh yeah, right. Because you live next to Emek Rafaim, right? It's all in Hebrew. It's all in Hebrew, and he's delicious. That's all I can say. He's delicious.
It's true what you say, though, that everything is from the heart.
He
calls his series something.
Yeah, lev lomed ahava.
It's
lev
really
lomed
true.
ahava. That's why. I was on this track for a long time, and then when I discovered him, so I was like, oh, this is what I've been looking for. This is the
full
blown like. You're where I want to go, but you're already there, and you like blew it right open. And so, in my personal process of things, it's just like it's just yummy. Okay, good. Now we can start. We can Cynthia's here. Okay. Oh, I have something for you. Something I took from you, and I was going to give it to you yesterday, a long time ago, and it's on my nightstand for a long time, and I didn't give it to you. Hold on. Sorry, ladies at home. There's the beastly. Okay, hold on, not that. Hold on. Oh, it's here. It's here. This, thank you so much. It's been a long time. Okay, let me put my whiskey back. Let me things back. And this is just keep it here. Okay, now we're gonna start. Bezrat Hashem it's such a pele of a book. No, not so recently. It's been I saw that I have a bunch of ladies here that I purchased the book and they follow as I'm doing it from the Hebrew, they're following along.
Amazing. And Rabbi Moshe Lichtman, who translated, is like amazing.
Yeah, I didn't even check into who translated it.
Yeah, he's incredible, like Zionist rabbi, amazing scholar, and so
makes sense.
We're in good hands.
Oh, we're totally good hands, totally good hands. And I every so often I refer to the English, and it's very well done, very well done. Baruch Hashem. So okay, so we're on chapter 3, subsection 45. That's where we're holding. And he's continuing with the same theme of last week. And the last week is, you guys don't get it. You keep forgetting. You forget what this is about. You know, troubles come. They do despicable things to you. It passes and you forget, and all is good, and you stay in the countries, and you don't get the point that the whole point was like to go back to motherland, to Ima Benim Smicha. That's waiting for you. And that's it's part of Hashem's dealing with us to not allow us to sink into to forget that this is really our place. So he's continuing with that thing. He quotes from a midrash, the pasuk from Hazinu, Israel lo yada ami lo hitbonan. It's a pasuk from Yeshayahu, opening chapter of Yeshayahu. I love Yeshayahu. I love Yeshayahu so much. It's when I was teaching high school in Montreal, and Lustigman was one of my first classes, and these kids gave me a run for my money. I'm telling you, I just like wanted to quit. By Hanukkah, I was like, I'm out of here. But then I stuck through it, and I had to teach these chapters from Yeshayahu after Hanukkah, after the Hanukkah break. In Israel, we call it Hanukkah break. Somehow it's like it changed my whole relationship with those kids. It was like just like
because of Yeshayahu?
No, I don't know why. Because of a lot of things. Because maybe I got a bracha from the Skver Rebbe because I went crying to him. It's a Chil Hashem. I'm teaching Torah. I need it. It has to be a Kiddush Hashem. What am I doing? Please, I want a bracha that I should be teaching Torah and it shouldn't go to waste over there. And worse was a bizayon. And I hold strongly by that bracha that he gave me.
Amen. What was it? Do you remember the words?
Well, the words of his bracha to me, no, but whatever I was right, it's like it should be so. It should be your Torah should be received, and it should be mitzliach and teaching, and then everything like that. Like those kids, I'm telling you. But then from that class that were so jaded and turned off from Judaism by the end, that was grade 10 in Montreal. They graduated in grade 11. By end of grade 11. They're like wearing tzitzis and everything like that. There were 5 rabbis. 5 rabbis came from that grade. One of them is Yoni Cohen in Berkeley, California.
Wow.
It's incredible. The other one is the Gabbai of the Biala Rebbe here in Givat Shaul, David Lustigman. Pele. The other one was John Rosner.
The power of bracha.
Well, it's incredible. It's incredible. Baruch Hashem.
That's where the bracha landed. To whom the bracha?
Right?
Bezat Hashem. Yeah. Leibish was not in that class because he was a grade older, and he was at that point he already went to the open school. He left Herzli at that point. My first year there was his first year out of there. I started, when I taught grade 10 there, he was already in grade 11, but he went to that open school. Rav Leibish.
Oh.
Rav Leibish, yeah. He was a Ben Bait. We ended up being very close. Yeah. He was. I fed him every Thursday night. All of this chitter chatter, and we didn't get into the book. Okay, well that's so. Okay, we'll go back. I'm back. We're landing. Okay, so there's a pasuk in Yeshayahu that says, Israel does not know, my nation does not contemplate. It's like Yeshayahu is like screaming at them. Like an ox knows where its feet is. Yada shor evus konehu v'chamor evus ba'alav. Yada shor konehu v'chamor evus banav. Every shore knows, every ox knows who his master is, and every donkey knows. Let's say it like this: every jackass knows where his food is, where his stable is for food. And then he follows with this pasuk: but Israel doesn't know who his master is and who is. We just forget. We live our lives and we forget about Hashem. The opening verses of Yeshayahu. And so here he's going to bring the midrash about this pasuk. What is it that we don't know? And what is it that we don't contemplate about? So the midrash says Israel yada l'she'avar. Israel doesn't give mindfulness thinking about what he just went through, about the past. Velo hitbanan, and he doesn't contemplate, doesn't learn from that for the future. V'kavana pshuta, the simple meaning here, that the Navi is rebuking Israel, that he forgets very fast the tsaris that befell them. And things that we should have taken to heart and learned from them. We have to learn from history, from things that happened to us, and then contemplate on those things that just happened to us, and apply it to the future, to learn from the hardships and the rough days and years that passed over us, that so many gezeres, harsh gezeres, came upon us, and oh wow, hey, we haven't seen her in a while. I was thinking about you. I was thinking I need to reach out to her. What's wrong with me that I haven't sent you a message? Yedida. Okay, good. Welcome back. Okay. That they skinned us from our skin, these gezeras. And about whom is said in Vayikra, v'zaratem lirik zarechem. You have given birth to children for nothing, because then they just go and kill you. I don't know if I have that translation. V'zaratem lirik zarechem. Someone with the English wants to look at that and tell me what the English for that. It's in the Klalos in Sefer Vayikra. Zaratem lirik zarechem. You have planted seeds Larik, for no reason, because you don't enjoy it. Nothing grows. Veramsu vechamsu otam bli chamal. And they trampled over us and walked all over us without any compassion. This type of past, we needed to take into our das, to our yeda. To know it, understand what happened to us in order to contemplate upon this, to know for the future, not to give any more faithfulness in them for what's to come. So, right? A bully is a bully is a bully. Yes, worse. And this we forget. We forget maher, we forget fast. And the Jews living through those matzavim, once this horrible situation passes, it's as if they make themselves as if they don't know, as if it didn't happen. And so once you don't learn from what just happened to you, you're just inviting the same to happen to you again. And so the offshoot of that we don't take it to heart, we don't contemplate about the future. And that's what the Navi. And that's what the Navi is screaming about. Israel lo yada. Israel doesn't know about the past. Ami lo hitbonan. And my nation doesn't give mindful thinking to the future that's yet to come. That these situations are likely to repeat themselves. As the events of the happenings of our nation, of our lives, prove out. That and then he says he quotes something in Yiddish. Who's he quoting here? He says something that I think this understanding of the pasuk from Yeshayahu is his own chiddush on it, how he reads it. And then he says in Yiddish, but I'm going to read the Hebrew here. The horrible situations we go through, the Holocaust, the pogroms, inquisitions, etc., Hamas war, isn't the tragedy. Isn't the big tragedy in the Jewish nation, but that we don't learn lessons from them. That's the big tragedy. Okay, so that's paragraph 45. Now we're going to paragraph 46.
Also, sinat hinam, we don't learn from. Also.
Yeah, well, there's a whole list of things that we don't learn from. Yeah. Unfortunately. Right. Absolutely. So now he's going to bring from the nusach of the Sephardi Siddur concerning Rosh Chodesh davening. Musaf, of Rosh Hashanah, Musaf of Rosh Hashanah. There's a line there that appears in the Sephardi tradition that doesn't appear in the wording of it is not quite the same in the Ashkenazi. He's bringing the Sephardi one. I like that a Munchach Chassid knows to quote from a Sephardi Siddur. That itself is a Pele Gadol. Real, right?
At that time also, because it's like you didn't really have access also.
Yeah.
You do now.
Yeah, but he's a Talmid Chacham. His life is in a base medrash, and he's okay. Vayhi hachodesh hazeh sof veketz lechol tzarotenu tchila verosh lefidyon nafshenu. It says there. What? You're familiar because you daven from a Sephardi Machzer. But so I made this month be. Now here I don't know. I want to ask you guys in that have the English to translate this for me because there's a diuk in the Hebrew. There's sof and ketz. Now sof is the end, but ketz is also the end. But in Hebrew, if you have two words that mean the same thing, it means that they don't exactly mean the same thing. But to translate it, it's not the same word. But Ruthie, what are you going to read from us now?
May this month be the end and the termination of all.
End and termination. Okay, good. And then, no, continue.
The beginning and the start of the redemption of our souls.
Okay, right. So there's the end and there's the termination. And then there's the beginning and the head. How did you say it? How was the English?
Beginning and the start.
The beginning and the start. But the Hebrew is tchila, which is the beginning, and rosh is the head, which is a start, but it means like, what does that mean? Beginning and start sound the same in English to me.
It's the lead.
It's the lead. It's the lead. Perfect. That's where he's going with it. So now the question is, there's so many words that seem to it seems like redundant. If you're saying sof, why do you need ketz? If you say tchila, why do you need rosh? And so he's gonna try to unpack it. Okay, fidyon lechol tzarotenu, an end to all our troubles, and also, and then that comes to with end and termination. Tchila verosh lefidyon nafsheinu, to the redemption of our souls. So what's the difference between once there's an end to all our tzaras, that means it's the beginning of the redemption of our souls. So why do we need both? Like he's gonna unpack all of the things that seem to be repeating themselves in a redundant way, and he says there's very big insight in the choice of words. That obviously, if the line from Chazal that wrote this machzer put it like that, they knew what they meant. They didn't just say there for redundancy. Okay. Now he says, and Hashem opened my eyes. Rav Teichtal is reflecting on this, on this question. Hashem opened my eyes to understand the depth of this tefillah. In the light of the events of his days, which is the Holocaust, he's thinking about this line from the Machzer, and he's extrapolating from the experience that he's feeling to understand all the redundancy, the seemingly redundancy in the pasuk, in the line, that we are living and existing amongst nations, amongst neighbors, the non-Jewish neighbors in the lands of Europe for centuries and many decades of years and centuries. And we can live a period like that with these goyim in the countries of Europe, b'shalom v'b'shalva, in peace and serenity, b'shket uvetach, in quiet and security. V'bein devar mafridin, and it seems like there's nothing separating us from the goyish neighbors. Like we're able to interact, have business, and they hire us as advisors. We're in the governments, we're in the hospitals. V'feta pitom, and all of a sudden, nefchu lanu loivim, those same people that were our counterparts or workmates or whatever it is, turn against us to become our enemies. Tsarim u'mitzirim u'meikim, horrible enemies that strangle us and are sitting heavily on us. Until to the point that the nation of Hashem, us, have become despoiled and downtrodden. Mamash nitkayem banu nuvat Yeshayahu. Now he's quoting another pasuk from Yeshayahu that is a fulfillment of the nevu of what Yeshayahu said in Perek Membet. V'hu am bazuz v'shasui hapach bachurim kulam uvatei kleim hichbiu hayu levaz ve'ein matzil meshisa ve'ein omer ashav. This I wrote for myself in English here. This is a dispelled and pillaged people. They are ensnared in holes. Now we're thinking about the Chatufim, right?
He
Like
is a prophet, Rabbi. He was a prophet.
Yeah, but
To see what happens today.
Right, but it's also the words of Yeshayahu, which means he was saying it about the Tkufa of the Chorban, but his words are eternal until we get the point. He says, when are you going to wake up? And it's going to apply from generation to generation until we finally put a stop, a ketz to it, terminate this whole Meshigas, right? So the words of Yeshayahu, this is a despoiled and pillaged people. They're ensnared in holes and hidden away in prison houses. They are despoiled and no one rescues. pillaged, and no one says, restore. It's horrifying to apply it to the Matzav of today, but you can't not, right? Mamash kol zeh kavim banu bezmanei. Mamash, these words, Avishayahu, what he said about his time. There's a when you learn Tanakh, there's a teaching that there were many prophecies that were given to the Jewish people by the prophets that didn't make their way into Tanakh. The only prophecies that made their way into Tanakh are those that are applicable to every generation. That's like a rule. There were many more prophets than are recorded in Tanakh, and there are many more prophecies that weren't given. The ones that didn't make it into Tanakh were only specific to those times and not to be applied for all generations. But if we are reading Yeshayahu here, it means every generation has to look at it and say, this is talking about me, my time. Mamash kol zeh kavim banu, and this, we see that what Yeshayahu said is mamash happening in full-blown measure here on us. They took our rechush. They took our property from us. And also we received so many like patches, hits, whips, all kinds of malkiot, all kinds of beatings, cruel beatings. And we were nitgarashnu, we were chasing away to foreign lands, and we were like banished to a land of decrees. And my pen can't write all of the things that the implication of these words. Like you can fill in pages and pages about all the horrors that they do for us. What have they done to us in this galus? This bitter and horrible galus. Things that should not ever happen to anybody happen to us. And we reached the bottom of shiflus, of lowliness and galus. Apparently not, because October 7th happened. You think that it was enough, the Holocaust.
Was that Ramat Gan yesterday?
Oh, horrible.
Not to mention, right?
Yeah.
Oh, the missile or
Yeah, landed
Building.
Yeah.
right away. I have a cousin that lives not far from there, so right away I texted her and she said, no, they're all fine, but it landed next to the office building of her husband where he works. A little bit. Hashem Shemo. V'yesh le'afli meod, and he says, and there's much wonder in a bad way. There's much perplexity in this. The lama ba kazot aleinu. Why these things happen? Befell on us. Why are they coming to us? And why don't they happen to any other nation? To the extent that it happens to us. That every other nation has the privilege of living normal human life in pleasantness on earth. And meitanu gazlu, and from us, it's like we're robbed from that zchus, from that privilege. Chayat ha'adam, the life of a normal human being. But
just thinking that the Chassids went, I don't know, to Newfoundland or someplace like that, and she was remarking that these people, they just live so nicely. They're just so
fishermen. Eyes the by that builds the boat. Eyes the by that
whatever, like
they talk weird in Newfoundland.
Yeah, but we have, with great power comes great responsibility.
Exactly. With great power comes great responsibilities.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
That's what it is. We're singled out for greatness, so we're singled out for.
Yeah, but I want to be reminded of our message. It's painful for the.
I don't know if
It's gonna repeat itself until we're finally gonna get the message, and that's where he's gonna lead to this. That's why in the line in the Musaf prayer, there's sof and there's ketz. There's an end And then there's a termination. You can have, spoiler, okay, here, that you have an end of one tzara, but you want it to terminate all tzaras. You don't want another tzara to come that you need to look forward to an end for. You just want it to, that whole cycle should be finished, to be terminated. And he says, they made our life worse than animals. Is known and is known to all. Now, this next paragraph here. And this too is very perplexing in our eyes. It's like, it's wondrous, but in a negative way in our eyes. We see how so many of our brothers of Bnei Israel in the lands of Europe, due to our many sins, gave over themselves to assimilation. They assimilated amongst the goyim, their neighbors, to the point that you can't distinguish a Jew from a goy. In their spirit, in their culture, in their language, in their behaviors, the culture. And they left and forsook the covenant of the fathers. You know, and so if they already assimilated and made themselves indistinguishable from the goyim who they live amongst, the logic would be that the goyim would accept them, because like goes to like. In the similarity that we made ourselves similar to them, they should have accepted us with open arms. But we see the opposite. Because in this bitter day, they chased us without any rescue, without any rachmanis, without making any chiluk, without making any distinction between a devout Jew that walks strongly in the faith of their forefathers, the holy forefathers, and an assimilated Jew. In the eyes of the goyim, we're all the same. Doesn't matter, kippah, no kippah, doesn't matter. And then he says something amazing. What? Amazing. And it's like the goyim who do this, who don't distinguish between us, that you're going now back to Avat Yisrael, and we don't learn from Sinas Yisrael because, right? They know. Who's they? Hem hayodim. The goyim know. Well, that was like a pella when what's he saying here? What Chazal say in Sanhedrin, in Gemara Sanhedrin, Israel afal pi shechata Israelu, that a Jew, even though he sins, is a Jew. The goyim know that a Jew is a Jew, and unfortunately we don't know that. I mean, we do. Yeah. And this is like a wondrous thing. Like, it's perplexing to the point of it's mind blowing. In how much the goyim understand something so basic.
In that interview that I sent today, one of the major terrorists in prison here in Israel had to eat matzah over Pesach. You know the story?
No. Ben Gvir, woohoo!
No, it was an Israeli prisoner.
I know, but right, okay.
Yes,
a few years ago.
And he saw the guard eating chametz, this terrorist.
Horrible. Now
and he said, "Why are you eating chametz? It's Pesach." And the guard said, "Well, I'm not religious. That's why we're going to win the war."
Did you at home hear what you did just shared?
I'm going to send the clip. I'll put it on the that with Tzvi Cheskeli. He interviewed this terrorist and he related that story.
Okay, I'm gonna. I need to hear from somebody at home if I need to repeat that story. If you heard it.
2 seconds.
Yes, I should repeat it.
Yeah, only a few sentences.
Shoshana, you heard.
I didn't hear it. I didn't hear it.
Because you need to see the lips. Okay, fine. So the story is like this: that a few years ago there was one of those terrorists was in an Israeli prison, and it was Pesach time, and he was and he was given matzah because it's Pesach and it's an Israeli prison. And he saw that the prison guard was eating his sandwich, chametz, and that this terrorist, this Arab terrorist, is looking at the guard and saying, "Why are you eating chametz? It's Pesach." And the guard says to him, "Because I'm not religious." To which the Arab Palestinian terrorist says back to him, "That's why we're going to win the war. That's why we're going to win you." Horrible, horrifying. Okay.
Just also a quick anecdote. Someone said that, the Palestinians, they have pictures of Al-Aqsa.
Yeah.
All over.
Yeah.
Okay. And we don't.
You
know what I'm saying? They have their eyes on the prize.
Yeah.
We should also have those same eyes on the same prize.
Yeah, but we don't. We don't. And it's amazing when you hear the news and still like talk about two-state solutions. Like, what are you talking about? Like, they just don't learn. They don't learn. Those people don't learn. How many times are we gonna have to go through the cycle until they finally get to them? They don't want peace with us. They want us dead. Oh, you face me. Okay. Od yesh lefli. Al korot yamein. Also, it's another thing to look at in our life in Gullus, in this long Gullus. That every few decades or even centuries, that these stories repeat themselves. Exactly what we went through, it's not. He's talking about the Holocaust. Been there, done that in Jewish history. That the Jewish people, Achenu, Bnei Israel, our brothers, the children of Israel, sit in Gullus for years, over a period of what seems to be quiet and rest amongst the nations. And then until that day that all of this, all of these bad things. What's the English word? Riots. All of these riots come up against them, and they pillage us and they plunder us and they despoil us, and we become pillaged and spoiled and murdered. This is what happened in Spain. We had 500 years of the golden age in Spain. And all of a sudden, it's like, that's it. You're a Jew, you die, or you convert, or you're expelled, or you just don't. And horrible situations. You read about it wasn't simple. It was horrible. It was burning people at the stake.
And just to add a quick, in Brazil, we have Portuguese and Dutch colonies. And it's like the Jew hatred wasn't enough to hate the Jews in Portugal and Spain. They also wanted to kill the Jews in the colonies.
In the colonies.
Like it wasn't enough to just, you're in front of me. We want to kill the Jew everywhere.
Everywhere, because if you're part of our system, then we have to ethnic cleanse.
It was like, oh, we hate these people because they're hurting us or they're doing better business as us.
Right.
It was like we want to, even in the new land.
Amazing, amazing.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
The amount of hatred.
The amount of hatred. How many times did we go through this already in Germany and Austria of old? Like World War I times. Imanu Kaet, and before even. And now it's happening again in almost every land in Europe. And we see what's going now in Amsterdam and Paris and in America. Canada. No, but what we saw now recently in Amsterdam, it's like it's so blatant.
It's also blatant.
It's also blatant. Apparently not blatant enough.
Too many layers of klipot.
Too many layers of klipot. You're right. You said it right. ולמה לא הגענו לידי מידש זו של אחד משאר עמי הארץ ישב? And how come we didn't get to this measure of any one of these other nations just to sit in security on the land, in peace and quiet, shanim rabim, many years, without this hefsek, without this interruption of all the decrees and riots coming upon upon us. You know, as I'm thinking about this, these, like in Israel now with the leftists and what they say, and it's like it's a self-hate, because it's like it's blaming us for their action. It's like, if we would only, it's like this victim. Oh, we spoke about this last week, the gaslighting. If we would only be better at being better, then they won't hate us.
No. Even like bring them home. It's not bring them home. That's on us. It's let them go.
Yeah, it's let them go.
Right?
Ata Rosh, Ata Hashem.
It's like, let them go, you know?
Yeah, how is it
Because
deep?
it's that self-hate. It's that
It's
same-
self-hate. It's
it's
self-hate.
self-hate. It's like, you know.
So I'm gonna bring some light into the self-hate. Okay, I see hope in it, because if they're self-hating, that means that they're reacting against a truth that they're not allowing themselves to admit right now, because the other possibility is being completely indifferent and disengaged. This is still a form of engagement. It's coming from a completely skewed place and damaging place, self-hate. But as long as they're self-hating themselves, there's hope for them to come to self-love. You know what I'm saying?
Like the four signs.
There's still, yeah, they're still on the continuum, on the spectrum. Oh, listen, guys, I don't do chats. I need you to unmute yourself and talk to me, because I noticed it now. Who was Yael speaking about? Oh, no, I answered that question. But the Chatufim are in Eretz Yisrael, not Chutz La'aretz. Well, but they're, yes, heard. Okay. But the Chatufim are in Eretz Yisrael, not Chutz La'aretz. That is a true comment. But they're held by the enemies of Israel on a part of the land that we don't have ribonut. We don't have sovereignty over. They're in Galus. And as long as we don't understand that Aza is also Israel, there's a bechina, an aspect of Galus, while living in Israel. Well said? Okay, good. I should make that a short on YouTube from this. Okay.
Well, I was gonna say, you know, Gaza, okay, it's Gehenom over there.
Aza is Gehenom.
You know?
That's why in Hebrew, Azazel. You know, when I was growing up, I grew up in the 60s, because I'm a 60s girl. I was born 1962. Hey, and I am 62 this year. Full circle. Okay.
You look great.
Thank you. Now, how old do I look?
I don't know, but your skin is like glowing. It's like I'm always like,
Yeah. Oh, Baruch Hashem. Okay, good. In any case, so I lived through the 6-Day War. I was in Israel for the 6-Day War. We're still like family of Yordim, and thank God we're made of Aliyah. Baruch Hashem. Thank God. Came back home. But I remember that kufa, and after the 6-Day War, and then at this point we were in Canada, and now we're in the 70s already. And the biggest insult that anyone could say to somebody is Lech le'aza. That was the curse word, Lech le'aza, because that's like hell. Lech le'aza.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy though is that, sorry.
No, that's it. That's all I wanted to say.
So Gaza is Gehenom, right? Even before like this war, it was like, you know, it's really like horrible there. Okay, and then it's like right next to Gehenom is Geulah.
Right.
You know, it's like Geulah in here, and it's like really like side by side.
It's the light. It's Star Wars. It's the light. It's the light. The force of light against the force.
Yeah.
There's so much Torah in Star Wars. Oh my gosh.
Okay. Should do a class.
Okay. ואולי, now, I was going to continue. ואולי אחי תרצה לומר לי. Now, maybe, אולי אחי תרצה לומר לי, כי הכל הוא גזירה מן השמיים. Maybe, like when these bad things befall us, you can just like dismiss it as מה לעשות? גזירה מן השמיים. והכל נכלל בכלל הגלות, and it's, if we already Hashem like decreed upon us galus, a churban beis hamikdash, and to be expelled from the land, so it's part of the package of being in galus that we're gonna have to suffer through these matzavim, these situations. until Mashiach comes. Now, I have to say again, who's his audience of his book?
Hungarian Jews.
He's Hungarian Jews. He's not speaking to secular Jews, to the Zionists, to the secular. He's speaking to the Haredim of his communities, which he is a product of, and the Rebbes and the courtyards of Chassidus and Chassidim that say there's no need to go to Eretz Yisrael. We just have to wait for Mashiach. It was a prevailing thought. So when the Zionists started doing their thing and building the land, they said, we don't want to have anything to do with them. They're eating treif. They're not keeping Shabbos. It's not a blessed enterprise. That's one angle that they came with. He says, I'm not going to go with all the things that he says, and just about that, he says, you know what? Even the spies who were great tzaddikim in the desert were wrong. Mm-hmm. And so from there, we learned that tzaddikim can be wrong. Mm-hmm. And he says other things also, but we'll leave it at that. And because of this mindset of it's part of Gullus to suffer through these things, and there's nothing to do about it. We have to just ride the waves until Mashiach comes. And and he says to them now, no, my brother, I don't agree with you about this. It's fundamentally wrong approach to take about this. Because look at the Ramban Nachmanides in Parshas Tavo, Kitavo, that wrote exact opposite of these words. Ve'adraba, kiba pasuk, but all the more so, there's a pasuk in Devarim. Ve'af gam zot b'yotam be'eretz oivehem. And even when these things happen in the land of your enemies, he doesn't here bring the end of the pasuk, but tell me at home if I'm saying it right. If you have a continuation of that pasuk there, even if these things, the af gam zol b'yotam, and even in the lands of your enemies, when you'll go through these things, know that you are not forsaken from me. Know that you're still my nachla. Lo me'astim v'lo ge'artim. I have not despised you. And within those horrors of those curses that we read in Chumash about the Tkufot, about the time periods of harshness in Galus, there is within the promise of Galus, there's also the promise. You will also, what does it mean? The implication that you will not be despised. You will go to Galus and you'll be able to live what will, on the face of things, look like a normal life. You'll be able to have parnasa there. You're not, you've not completely been dismissed from my hashgacha about you. Binyanim will be able to enjoy rights in the lands of the nations, and even maybe even more than them, because we'll, as we know that the Jews always rise to the top of any field that they engage with, if it's in politics or economics or medicine. This has always been the case. The Jews were always sought after to be the advisors to the kings. And therefore, it is not a foregone conclusion that harsh decrees is the lot and the portion of the nation that was sent into Galus. It doesn't have to be that way. Where he's going with this is, if the harshness comes, is because it's to wake us up that we are misreading the privileges that we are enjoying in those quiet times, and we forget the ikar. We forget that there's still somewhere to go back to, and you've made your place too much at home there, that the privileges and the prosperity enjoyed there got to your head, made you fat, and forget what the ikar is. And so the gezeras come to wake us up, to rattle us. You've put too much stock in your security. in those lands. But listen to my words. Just be quiet enough to allow my words to be heard by you, and understand the meaning, the pesher hadavar, the implications of these things. No, it's going into the whole philosophy, right? Know that just as a person, a human, is made up of two things, a body and a soul, and each one of those parts, the body and the soul, needs to be sustained, satiated, each with what sustains it. The body needs physical food and the spirit needs spiritual food. And that the spiritual food is the correct order of things when it has to do with life on earth, to apply intelligence and das in proper measure. So we have to apply intelligence to physicality, spirituality to physicality. Because if a person, let's say, eats too much, eats beyond the measure that the body actually needs to eat, he'll corrupt his body, and all kinds of diseases will come to him. And the intellect of a person needs to bring proper balance. Has to supply, nourish. Thank you so much. Has to nourish b'mishpat, with good judgment, things that have to do with the betterment of the body. You have to know when to stop eating, because seichel has to step in at a certain point. So there has to be a joint partnership, living between the body and the neshama. Not to go overboard from one measure over another measure. But to use both of these, spirit, soul, and body, in equal measure. We can't deny one for the sake of the other. They both have to be there. And it's only then, when we do that, are we able to succeed, to live long and pleasant lives. And but when you lose balance from them, the equilibrium, proper equilibrium that's supposed to exist between them, and you balance, like you give too much weight one to the other. Okay, like somebody who goes overboard with the physicality and doesn't use his intellect, and which is a spiritual matter, to nourish the body, according to the intellect, that's supposed to limit and define and give borders to the body, not to use more than what is necessary from all the damage that it's going to do to the body, without boundaries. As Adam, because then he don't have done. If a person doesn't listen to seichel, so he's going to be just like finished. It's like it's like it's a death sentence to himself. Because he only listen to the body that says have, give me, and he doesn't listen to the voice of the intellect that says loke, not so. And just as this is true for a private person, so too is it true for the nation as a whole. The nation as a whole has a body and a neshama. And both of these aspects of the nation, the materialistic, the physical, it has to be kept in proper measure to the spiritual content of the nation. The physical aspect of the nation is gashmius. That translates to economy and business interactions and agricultural endeavors, plowing, and all of this is needed for the life of a nation. We have to take care of ourselves from a parnasa point of view of maintaining our physical presence in this world. But the spiritual, but there's also spiritual life. There's also spiritual component to the life of a nation. That is the soul of the nation. And just as we see, just as we see that every nation develops its culture and intellectual endeavors, and a country. I remember once in Canada, not before I came here, there was a big thing. They were making all kinds of cuts, and they wanted to give less to the, I don't know what you call it, Ministry of Culture. And they were up in arms, like, what's a nation without culture? You want to limit theater? You want to limit literature? You want to, so it's a basic thing. There was a whole big fight in the news over there. Because what's a nation that inhibits the expression of the soul through cultivating culture, which is what we do here in Shevach Torah in our program, right? Okay, we need to bring it. So we see that in every nation, they know this, that every aspect of life has to be given spiritual expression, intellectual, and when you do that, when you allow the intellect, the spirit of the culture of the nation to flourish, this also strengthens the prosperity of the nation. They work hand in hand. I think in dictatorial regimes, they don't allow that. There's no freedom of expression. And as we see these matters in our times now, that a country, a nation that allows technological advancement also prospers more. You see them economically doing better than countries who don't invest in it. There you go. Except Iran is very technologically advanced with their missiles. Not so much of, for their evil designs.
Well, they're not Arab, but
That's true.
But they're Muslim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to be helping.
Yeah.
You know what? There were a
The
lot of
Aryan.
Jews from, that still, they're descendants of Jews, in Iran.
Yeah.
Still
Yeah.
from the Persian times. So
Yeah.
maybe that's why.
Maybe.
I don't know.
My guys were in Shani Shmuel. Okay, so
They used to be friendly towards the Jews.
but
with the Shah.
everybody used to be friendly. That's the whole point of this, until they're not friendly. And what we have to
That's until they can't,
and until we get too comfortable. It's not because we did anything wrong, except that we forgot that there's home to go to. Okay, enough of this. So it's like a nation has a neshama, and you have to nurture both. Okay, and if you don't nourish one one at the expense of the other, then it's a loss. It's suicide basically. And sooner or later, the Gashmias will also be lost because you're not feeling the soul of the nation. This really is what is the corruption that we saw in the Soviet Union. Right? So poor. So it's a country full of resources, natural resources, the black earth that's there. There's so many things and the communism just like wiped it out. It inhibited the freedom. Just the have without the ze lo ze lokach.
Just someone was telling me they used to live in Moscow, and I was like, "Oh, what's it like living in Moscow?" And they're like, "Everyone's very quiet because when they're living a regime of there's cameras everywhere, and it's so everyone's very
And the babushkas watching over everybody.
yeah,
And spying and snitching.
for sure. So it's back to the culture. Everyone's quiet. They don't.
I in one of my times I think when I went to Uman, I think this is where I heard it. One of the drivers that was driving us from Kiev, can't go to Kiev anymore, to Uman. So he shared, why they're submissive like this. It started before the KGB. It started with the czars that had such a control over the people, and it wasn't in Uman. Now I remember who told it to me. It was in Karmekat here in Israel. Okay, never mind. It's my head. Okay, but so
Any kind of country.
monarchy
yeah.
when it's like an ism, it's a dictatorship, and the czars, it's part of the culture to cultivate submissiveness. Now I'm forgetting what he told us, but everybody had to kneel, like literally kneel, not just like out of respect for the king, but from a place of being beaten into kneeling, and to the danger, to the detriment of it, to the point of it being life-threatening if you can. It's a long-standing tradition in Russian countries, even from the Tsar, the submissiveness. So when communism took over, it was just like it was another form of that submissiveness. And so you don't hear, even now that there's more freedom of press, kind of whatever, but Kufa, okay, Gorbachev, whatever, there's still, people don't speak out against the government. They're very afraid to do that. But it's not just because they're afraid, but because it's a culture of submissiveness. That's their people. Okay, anyway. So now to move on, how are we doing for time? Oh, it's 11 o'clock, son of a gun. Okay, you know what? We're going to continue next time. This was a very big paragraph, and there's another, this is like 6 pages worth of a chapter. So we're going to continue. I'm putting my post-it. We'll know to continue next week, and we'll pick it up. Okay. Thank you so very much for joining this morning. Jenny, always on the run in the car. Okay, thank you for joining nonetheless. All the best. We should have a good week. We should have good news from Israel, from the Chatufim. They should just go out of that dungeon, and peace all over.